There are two very powerful forces to help you create or grow a strong business: culture and branding. Perhaps you don't have to choose. Today we talk about fusion and harnessing the power of using brand and culture.
Welcome to your podcast, Online Marketing with Juan Llerena. To succeed in any entrepreneurial project, you need to get prepared and you must learn to learn, unlearn and relearn. In this podcast, we'll help you in three ways. First, giving you an opportunity to join a community of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs just like you, to support you and learn from each other. Second, by bringing you for free tools, tips and tricks to help you advance your projects faster and to teach you how to let the world know about your products and services. Third, by providing you with inspiration, motivation, and ideas to continue your entrepreneurial journey. We cover subjects of marketing, sales, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Join our tribe of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs and take charge of your destiny. What are we waiting for? Let's get started.
Good morning, entrepreneurs at heart. Welcome to your online marketing podcast with Juan Llerena. Welcome once again, and this is our 9th episode of season 3. Wow, this season is flying so fast for us. And I want to welcome you to this book review. Today we're talking about an interesting topic, an interesting subject called fusion. And basically it talks about how to fuse brand and culture to get these powerful tools to create a powerful company, a powerful brand, to grow your business or to start a new business. This is based on the book Fusion: How Integrating Brand and Culture Powers the World's Greatest Companies. And this book was written by Denise Lee Yohn from 2018. So it's a very recent book. And I picked this book because it advises businesses to make us bring together a couple different aspects on how businesses are trying to solidify their presence for their customers, to build their brand, to grow their business. So some businesses are working more in their culture and some businesses are working more in their brands. Okay, so we'll cover about this book and how it creates some different examples of different things that we can pay attention. The takeaway, it's kind of like a spoiler alert. The takeaway from this book really is to be able to combine both internal brand, your internal culture, and your external brand. What people's perception is from their brand, your customers, your potential customers, and that. So why are we talking about this? Is because, like I said at the beginning, some organizations are putting all their chips, all their eggs in one basket, and that is our culture. And culture, organizational culture, is a very, very interesting topic and very complex. But it's so important to consider your culture, to be able to create a good strategy for your business, but not only for that reason, but also for the reason that you want employees, you want coworkers, you want partners that believe in the mission, and you want to make sure that your business has a purpose. Okay, so that's why culture comes from within the company. And why is important the branding part? Because your brand is the perception, and we have said it many times, the perception is the reality for your customers or for your even potential customers that they don't know about you yet. So like if the perception is that you have poor quality products or bad service or high prices, even if that is not true, and you don't have a clear message about who you are or what is that you do, or why your services or your products are different and how they're going to solve a problem, then you definitely have problems there. So your branding is important as well. So in order to create a strong company and to be able to survive in this market where businesses are really stepping up their games, and there's new businesses, new people out there, they're creating new ideas and also replicating so many ideas out there, right? It will be hard to believe that with 7 billion people you're going to have a very unique idea that nobody else has. Unless you're in that position, you have to face it, that there's going to be competition, and if there's no direct competition, you're going to have some substitutes for whatever it is that you're offering or whatever it is that you're selling. Okay, so it is important that with this book we start thinking about how we can bring those two things together. and then we start betting in both our culture and our brand. And the interesting part about this, that it really caught my attention, is how giants, how big business companies are really breaking this dilemma. And basically the answer is to fuse both, and that's why fusing your culture and fusing your branding is really giving birth to this idea of fusion. Okay, so if you combine both, you're going to release, according to this book, all this positive energy and all this power like you've never seen it before, and then we'll see why. Okay, so there's a different process, and we'll deal more in detail, but like in a nutshell, it's like identifying your core values. Okay, so it goes back to your values and identifying your company's purpose and your mission and your vision and what that culture is. Okay, by maybe doing a culture audit, and then how you can build from there, and build to the outside. So having a good or a bad company's culture, it can be something good for your business or bad. There are some examples that we'll see throughout this podcast session today that created good positive experiences for companies and created really a differentiation point from their competition. And there's also some examples of how some negative culture companies like Volkswagen, for instance, that at some point it really decided to take advantage of all the trust from their customers and from all their long history in the automotive business, and decided to at some point in their existence to fake all these gas emissions and all these reports where they were saying that it will save the environment, or it will contribute saving on gas or yielding more miles per gallon of gasoline and whatnot, until it was discovered that it wasn't true. So it's not just about creating a good message, but you have to believe it. You have to internalize that message and make sure that your core and your values are instilled into everyone that it comes to your organization, and that everybody embraces your culture and makes it part of their own. Okay, and what we'll see is that companies like Amazon, they're basing a lot of their success on their external brand, and that's through customer satisfaction, right? Amazon wants to deliver satisfaction to every single customer, and if you have not experienced Amazon, well, you're missing out on that. You should at least try it, and if you have, well, you can definitely tell that they will do what they can to try to satisfy you, if it's about getting you information, responding to a particular question, trying to return an item, find items. They're trying to facilitate the process. They're customer centric, and then we'll see how their internal processes too are also dedicated with their culture to respond to this external branding need, which is to relentless improve their internal processes to be able to deliver on this customer satisfaction. So the takeaway on that is that companies, even like Amazon, they have aligned their brands and their culture to deliver the best experience to their customers. Okay, so it's not something they only say, but they also work from within to try to even break away from the conventional ways of doing business, how they're taking care of customers, to even consider new or different ways to satisfy that need better in order to accommodate to that one overall goal of customer satisfaction as part of their external brand. Another one is that it will help you align your employees by defining crystal clear objectives and mission and values from your company, to make sure that everybody that is part of the organization understands what that is, right? Everybody should know what their main purpose is. And when you can accomplish that nobody in the company that is working, at least you're making all the efforts, and everybody's in tune with their goals and know in which direction they're all going and what the major objectives are and how to get there, and evidently, what part of they play into all of this, then your efficiency is going to start increasing and it's going to start improving significantly. Okay, It also gives you a competitive advantage, and this is something that we're reading in this book too, because the competitive advantage, it's something that you only have and that it lasts for so long, right? Because you always need to continue edging that out, and you need to continue creating this competitive advantage and move from one, to the next at a higher level, and you need to continue raising the bar in the space you are. Why? Well, because the competition, it can probably imitate what you do, or in a very similar way, maybe even better than you, but they're gonna have a hard time trying to reproduce how you do it. Okay, so people and other companies can probably imitate the products, the quality, but imitating the brand, the culture from this brand, imitating, how you do it, why you do it, is gonna be so much harder, and that can give you that competitive advantage. Okay, and also by making this, making your company something that is hard to imitate, it gives you that authenticity. And authenticity is something that gives you credibility in the eyes of the customers. And why is that? Well, because customers, like I have said before as well, is that customers are really smart, and they have a lot of information at their disposal. They have it on their phones, just like you do, just like I do. And you really can't tell a customer something that is not true, or you can claim something that is not true. Customers are going to find out. Okay, so once you can be authentic, and it's an authenticity that is authentically earned, your customers are going to give you that credibility, and they're going to trust you, and they're probably going to give you their loyalty. Another example about fusion: identify your company's purpose and how you can align that with your core values is, for instance, the company Nike. And Nike, do you know the slogan? Just do it, right? The swoosh is just do it, right? Anybody can see it. Anybody knows what that is and what brand that represents. And that's no secret. But it is important to know that Nike doesn't only focus on that external brand, okay, and the branding part of it. It also focuses on their core internal culture. And the actual CEO from that company, from Nike, decided that the internal culture for Nike was that if everybody could run a few miles every day, the world would be a better place, quoted, okay? And so if they believe that everybody could run a few miles every day and the world will be a better place, then their external branding, that is just do it, it represents that. So not only that you wish to do that, but you just take it and you do it, that you own it. Okay, and basically it's, if you want to achieve a similar level of fusion, again, you first need to identify and realize what is your company's purpose, which I hope that by now you should know what that is. And having a strong sense of purpose is not only going to help your company's culture, and also is going to unify your the co-workers, the employees, everybody that participates and is part of the company, but it's also is going to help make it a company that is relentless and that is going to survive more, that is going to be more resilient. Because nowadays in a marketplace that is so competitive, a company that has a weak purpose, more prone to lose on this competitive market with the ones that have a stronger sense of purpose. Okay? So we're not talking about only about making money here. We're also talking about the purpose of the own existence of the company, and that knowing that purpose of the company is going to give you that leverage that you need to possibly survive, to be more competitive, to be more resilient in the business world, and probably will give you this edge because of all the reasons mentioned before. So how do you do that? Okay, how do you do that? How do you reach those? How do you identify your purpose? How do you reach that stage where you can unify that message with your internal culture and your external branding? Well, the first step, as is described in the book, is to describe your product or service. Okay, so you need to be able to describe what is that you do, what is that you produce or that you sell or that you offer, and then realize and ask yourself why each one of those are important, if they are important. And when you have identified what that is and why they're important, you should be able to continue asking yourself this process for about 5 times. this process 5 times. And yep, so to recap, your core values will act as a bridge between your external brand and your internal culture, because they will allow you to fuse those two into a seamless whole as being part of a one instead. Okay, so it is important that you, whether you're valuing collaboration, communication, transparency, quality, if you have a fan culture, a fan products, you should always try to articulate all of these values all together in a way that is compelling, in a concrete way. And that is important to remember. As always, the communication is one of the core and centerpieces for any company's culture. And so when you're auditing your company culture, because you need to know what your culture is and how it's standing compared to your values and your mission and your vision, and what it's accomplishing and how it's being perceived within the company. So communication is a key piece, because whether you're using a communication that is more personal, face-to-face, where you have this interaction with people, people with people, versus a communication that is more remote. Maybe you're working in remote teams, on remote settings where it's not so personal. Well, that might have an influence on how your communication is flowing within the company, and how your culture is being passed from employees from within the company to probably new employees. Okay, and it's also important to realize if you have any policies and procedures in place for your company. I mean, is there like a dress code? Is there a way to is it more formal culture? Is it more casual? How do people dress up? What are the policies regarding people? Do people take vacation? Is there a particular policy for your vacation time? Does everybody leave at the same time for 30 days? Or does everybody take time and have to make sure that somebody else is covering for them? So all of these little things or big things, they do account for how your culture is being analyzed, and how good or bad your culture can be, or how healthy or unhealthy it can be. So it is important that you assess your culture, considering communication as one of the main factors in how that culture is being passed. If you're not sure about what culture, well, I can quickly tell you that culture are those like unwritten rules within your business and within your company. And it is important to realize that there is always culture within your company, whether people talk about it or not, because that's just how the work ethics, the code of conduct, the way people communicate, the way people interact with each other, and how they interact with their customers, and your how people are working on a day-by-day basis, and how do they live and breathe that every day. Another important piece to having a centric fusion company where you fusion external brand and internal cultures, your brand and your culture, is leadership. Okay, just like for 2 atoms to fuse, you need an excessive amount of heat, like really great amount of heat, and that's really what leadership is all about. So leadership is what is gonna be that force that is gonna bring together your culture and your brand in a way that is gonna merge them, and it's gonna get them together to be one, and that is really going to differentiate your company from everything else. Okay, so your leadership is important. So in the book, they talk about how during the 2008 big financial crisis in the world, that we live here in the United States, motor company, it wasn't doing well. There were a lot of things that were said about Ford, but they were all kind of bailed out of the the financial crisis that they were going through. And they happened to have a CEO, which is a good leader, Alan Mulally, and under Alan's leadership, the company not only became profitable again, but also it became one of the major automobile producers in the country again. One of the big American automobile producers. And basically what they did, and this is an example of how leadership really shaped this change, is because this CEO Mulally, he called on one vision that it was a one Ford for all the company, and it went back to Henry's for initial purpose, which was to build a car for a great multitudes, for everybody in America, a car that was accessible, a car that everybody could dream of and be able to have to change their life, and to really explore new territories and whatnot. So this vision of 1-4 and looking back at the initial vision from Henry Ford's purpose of building a car for everyone, reinvigorated the company and inspired everyone to look at the Ford brand as a company of progressive values and a company that realigned their external brand with their internal purpose, fusing the two and generating what was needed in order to turn the company around and to make it profitable again. So it is important to realize that your leadership is really, if you are going to decide that, or if you realize that your company or the company you're in needs this approach of fusing your culture and your brand to create a new, different, a much better approach, a stronger sense of company, and to really unleash a lot of potential. How it is, if you don't have your leadership involved, if you don't have your leadership that has a clear vision and where they want to go, and that fusion is really important for the company, this is really gonna play against any odds for having a successful fusion. Okay, and for those that are starting, you should always look to communicate the company purpose and the core values to employees. It is said that a good mission statement, it can be memorized by every single employee in the company, and when anybody can recite the mission of the company, and if you can summarize this into just one sentence, then the employees will be more able to be consistent and remember which direction they're going, what their purpose is, and that's just going to help a lot with the communication. It is not simple, as the company becomes bigger and bigger and larger, communication becomes a challenge. It really is, and it always is. But as a leader, you must act in a way that reinforces the company's culture, especially paying attention to what the actions that are taken by the company, and also the words that are being used to reinforce that positive purpose that the company might have. Okay, so these decisions should always be driven by your core values, not the other way around. So like if you are looking to hire a potential employee, it's easier and it's better if you hire somebody that can adapt to your culture, or that understands your culture and can learn from your culture. And it's probably better to sometimes let good elements go, even if they're solid workers, but they don't breathe and they don't understand and they don't buy into the company's culture. Okay, so the value of your workers will be seen, and it will be shared throughout the company. It will just be easy to see, it will be easy to feel. So you'll have to have clear leadership to be able to make the changes that are necessary in order to attain this good positive culture that can be fused with good branding for your company. So it is important that as you get closer to fusing your brand and your culture, you always can align your employee experience and with the customer experience. Okay, so if you're talking about having a great, wonderful customer experience, but your employees don't have experience, how can they instill that customer experience if they don't experience them themselves? So a great example is Airbnb. This is a big company where they give like an allowance about $2,000, as it's mentioned in the book, for each employee a year towards their vacation. So they can have, and as long as they have it with Airbnb and they host it with an Airbnb host, or they actually get to stay with an Airbnb host. So they're encouraged to experience their own company and as a user as well as a customer, as a consumer. So it's a great idea, and I love this approach, because what better than your employees to know what you're offering and to breathe it and live it and experience it, so they can explain it, they can share it. If they had a great experience, they're going to be more enthusiastic about it, and they're going to be able to design better user interfaces and better user experience. If there's something that it wasn't great, that they can actually learn from it, and it will only go back to benefit your company and the user experience, hence providing more sales, boosting the user experience, bringing more new customers, and growing your base of revenue. Okay, and finally, it's important to try to create experiences that your employees are value, and because those experiences that your employees will value will create those company culture that will set the mood to, for the right environment within the company, on the production side, for the customer care, because they will be more engaged and they will be able to treat your customers definitely better. Wow, there's so much to talk about fusion, branding, and culture. I love these topics because it not only focuses on the brand, if you're doing branding, if you're marketing, if you have a company, because sometimes we just only focus on the branding side of our business and we forget about our culture. So like if you have a culture that really sucks, how can you increase your chances of success? So it only makes sense. So this is a really good book. As a way of summarizing everything that has been mentioned before, is that if you can really combine, your brand and your culture into one piece, your company is going to be able to release power like it's never been seen before, like you have never experienced it before. So, but it's important to identify what your core values are and identify really clearly what your purpose is. And by sharing that with your employees and with people within the company, and allowing them to have a good experience for the company, just like you focus on your experience for your users, and I hope that those are good experiences for them as well, then you will be looking at really creating something super, super powerful. Okay, so if you want to stay competitive, if you want to create a differentiation from your competition, you can no longer afford to only focus on one or the other. You have to try to merge both, and you have to fuse them both together as a whole. And with this, I leave you with that thought. I hope that you enjoyed this fusion recap. Again, if you really want to dig more into this book, and again, this book has a lot more information. Is really this is just like the top of the iceberg really for me, because there's so much that you can get out of this interesting book, and it's just so relevant nowadays with the way technology is moving, with the way branding and the accessibility for companies to get in front of the customers with social media, with the websites, in a much more direct way than before. You need to propel, and you need to leverage your culture and your branding together to give a boost to your company to reach out their next level. Okay, so having that in mind, I want to invite you to sign up to our newsletter and let us know how you are benefiting from this and how you see yourself growing in the next year as we're approaching the end of the year, and what actions are you taking in your own personal life and in your business life to reach a new success level in 2019. And if you didn't see success happening in 2018, let me tell you that 2019 is going to be a great opportunity to start over, to realign your mission, your vision, to tweak the things that you did that could have done better, that should have been better. So it's only going to be a better opportunity for you. So you don't have to give up. You actually can continue dreaming, but you have to take action, learn from your mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes, because that's going to get you only closer to your goal. Okay, so with having that in mind, we'll be seeing you next week with our 10th episode coming out soon. So I wish you a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.